I love League of Legends, even though the players can be very toxic, but that's to be expected from any competitive gameplay experience. I'm a Wild Rift player because I'm more of a mobile gamer in general, and I don't have a computer that can handle the desktop experience at this point. But I've been watching the Arcane series on Netflix, and it has given me such a newfound appreciation for the backstory, lore, and interconnectivity around various characters from the League of Legends franchise. So, what better time than now than to get into a series that covers these various characters, as well as their incredible collection of skins? Let's get this started with two of Piltover's finest, Jayce and Caitlyn. Hola, my name is X, and I like to experiment with fashion as well as talk about whatever the hell I want on social media whenever I feel like it. And in this video, I'm going to give you the TLDR on some character overview as it pertains to Jayce and Caitlyn, some backstory, a little bit of personality and purpose, just so that we can get acquainted with these characters. And along with that, going to take a look at a bit of their personal style, some of the elements and components that make up the fashion and style of these characters, and how that style reflects Piltover's overall aesthetic and influence. And then from there, we're going to get right into a bit of an analysis and review of the various skins within each of the characters' collections. And I'm going to loosely rank them in order of least favorite to most favorite, just based on how the overall style of the skins resonates with my personal taste. A pretty straightforward agenda, right? So let's not waste any time and get straight into it, starting with Jayce. He is a remarkable inventor and essentially the pride and glory of Piltover, which is the city where he was born and raised. Piltover is known as the city of progress, and Jayce is very idealistic in his pursuit of that progress. He has drive, he has confidence, but he also has a remarkable vision for innovation as well as the capability to achieve it. So much so to the point where he is one of the pioneers to manifest the intersection of technology and magic on behalf of Piltover, making way for incredible advancements in weaponry and tools for the people of Piltover to take advantage of and utilize, with his signature weapon, the Mercury Hammer, being a prime example of that. He's ambitious, a bit headstrong, but that's just because he's so passionate about advancing his city. While he has had some contentious moments with some of the other leaders within the city, he's overall regarded as pretty much a hero and a guardian and an icon of Piltover, just for all of the work that he's put in his incredible leadership capabilities and achievements. His ultimate goal and purpose is to preserve the future of Piltover, so much so to the point where he's been given the title Defender of Tomorrow by his people, which he isn't so caught up in because he's just dedicated to his overall sense of duty, mixed with that sense of future focus that gives him duality and doesn't make him as stereotypical as he may initially come across. And so, being the pride and glory of Piltover, it's no surprise that his overall fashion style and aesthetic will reflect and embody many elements of how that city looks. The overall aesthetic of Piltover, I would say, is a mix of Art Deco as well as steampunk. Art Deco, which had a huge boom in the Americas in the early 20th century, is what gives it a bit of that kind of classic traditional look, but it's the steampunk that I think gives it a little bit of that futuristic edge, just with gadgets, technological aspects that make it a little more progressive than just modern aesthetics. And with those two visuals combined, we see a mix of high polish, ornate details, as well as an overall mechanical vibe that lends itself to sleek architectural silhouettes, as well as lots and hardware, glistening hardware, which are two key components to Jayce's personal style. And it's that blend of tradition and futurism that also manifests itself in like a military meets techwear style in Jayce's various outfits and clothing. And we even see that across the various different alternate skins that he has. But another aspect of Piltover is a sense of high class and sophistication and plenty of status consciousness, which we can see within his clothing just based on how well tailored and fitted it is to his overall structure and silhouette. We're talking high-end, well-tailored structured jackets, form-fitting pants, and stylish boots just to really round out a timeless classic look. And while I'm not one to focus on weaponry, it's very key and cornerstone to the various characters within League of Legends. So Jayce's Mercury Hammer is a great icon or emblem for everything that we just discussed with regard to his personal style, hardware, and mechanics, but is also an interesting, innovative blend between something ranged and close combat, which just goes to show how incredible of an inventor he is as well. And so in talking about all of those personal style components, when we look at his default outfit, we can see all of that coming into play. An incredible, well-structured jacket that isn't too bulky like typical armor of like a Guardian fighter type character could be. We are getting some armor hardware elements, but they surround what are kind of key, sophisticated and polished clothing items as mentioned. The jacket has an incredible collar with great texture, just to give an extra sense of luxury and great drama, length, and detail to it. Loving some of the kind of cog work and technological motifs woven within, and the colors just feel very classic. But now getting into looking at his alternate skins a bit more closely, and again, loosely ranked in order of how they resonate with my personal taste. The Forsaken Jayce skin, it's cool, and I think it's an interesting, darker aesthetic, and it has some of those same hardware elements, and I think that the hammer especially embodies this shape and framework of like a traditional hammer. Definitely not a favorite. It just doesn't even feel like him. It just feels like an alter ego or like the inverse of who he typically is. I like some of the luminescent details, and I think that kind of a purplish and red and black, I've said this several times, is an interesting elite color, but just the cloak doesn't feel as sophisticated, polished, high fashion like I personally like to see him embody. Well, Metal Jayce is a little bit better. I have said before how I'm not even the biggest fan of like total armored looks, and this is pretty much just that, but it's at least a little bit more rounded than usual, and it also has some interesting luminescent details within it. I like the blue and the gold and silver combination. It just feels a little more fresh and inviting, especially compared to the Forsaken. But I mean, it's pretty straightforward, nothing all that inspired. The Zenith Games is also a bit of like an armored kind of battle arena type look. I like that it is a little bit more sporty and that there is an interesting mix of different colors here than usual, orange and bluish being a bit complementary. And I do like a bit of the visor that he has, and that we're even seeing his actual face and head. But again, it's just armored. There's really not as much fashion and style going on here. Moving into Resistance Jayce, we still get a view of him, and we're actually getting some functional clothing items and pieces, some actual fashion in the mix, which I think is nice. It's just, once again, more inverse to his style, but it shows that he has a bit more range and he can embody multiple different aesthetics, even something more rugged and grungy like this. The jacket's really cool. Superhero Jayce, like, it's definitely more of a middle ground pick, just because it's just like, it doesn't completely look like him. It kind of looks a little bit different, but I love the idea of him being reimagined as a hero. I know multiple characters were, but it just feels especially fitting for someone like him. He wears it very well. The suit is pretty cool, not as much fashion, but just the more fantasy angle of it, and even some of the winged elements, and it seems all American, like red, white, and blue to an extent as well, and that feels very Jayce. Brighthammer skin is also a bit more armored and feels so much heavier just even looking at it, but it also feels angelic and divine, which I feel like is a status that he can easily elevate into and has good alignment with his character archetype. I believe there's even like a halo in it. I just like the overall, what seems almost like a lieutenant or just a high official kind of tunic wearing, and the white is very crisp and elite. And I love the little kind of orange gemstones that are in some of the armor elements as well as in the hammer. Debonair Jayce, I considered putting this one a bit lower, not too inventive, but very much Jayce. And it's nice to see him in a bit more of a mature orientation and just something a little more charming. Three-piece tuxedo type suit, loving the kind of waistcoat or vest underneath, just with the gold details and buttons to further highlight that luxury and opulence and sophistication. So just nice polished, not as much armor going on, which I like. The Battle Academia Jayce skin, I feel like certainly highlights the fact that he's the cool, handsome guy archetype. Like very much giving sophisticated jock energy And I like a bit more of a focused blue signature, like statement color within the mix. Just the way the jacket fits on him, it almost seems like it's around his shoulders. Effortlessly cool guy. I say that all the time. And the hammer in this case is very interesting in terms of its structure. T1 Jayce, I think, is one of the best blends between some of that typical like hardware armored element, but the overall suit, coordinated suit that he has underneath is just so elite. And there's even like a sharp lightning bolt, I feel like, fastened to the jacket as well. And the belt details, I think, are some of the strongest across the skins. And there's some interesting details around the cuffs. But Arcane Jayce is so classic. This just feels like Jayce fully, like some of the best representation between the hammer and between the outfit. And I really like that the outfit isn't too covered with like armored elements. It's just enough to kind of show that he's emerging really more so into that role. Really clean, very stylish, a great blend between everything. Not as technological future focus as maybe some of the other skins, but it just really plays up the traditional classic style and vibe. I would say that the prestige version of T1 Jayce is the best divine orientation of his character, so to speak, in terms of the armored elements and just how he just feels so much more elevated. And even when you look at the splash art, it just is so glorious. He knows he looks good. And I think that translates very well to the 3D model too. And the pants just feel more flared, and it just gives a nice darker kind of twist and edge to his style, but still enough of that white peeking through in concert with the gold. But very glad that I caught that there's an Arcane Survivor Jayce that even does like the Arcane Jayce one step better. I really like that there's a stronger statement coat in the mix for him, as that really honestly is a signature part of his personal style. And I really enjoy the different buckle details and elements going on through the outfit. And even the shirt and the lapels of the jacket have such great gold detailing that doesn't feel so overwhelmingly armor-esque. It feels stylish. It doesn't feel as dystopian. And I love how his hammer in this case definitely feels like it's embodying more of that twisted, unusual arcane element. But I have to choose the Crystal Rose skin is the best. And I think that I'm probably going to be biased and rank them all high across the characters as we go. It's already in close proximity to his personal style anyway, so that's a huge plus up for him. But I mean, from the vest to the jacket to the rose elements, the purple hair, and the hammer, this is some of and the bow tie, like I could just gush and gush, but absolutely gorgeous. Cool. Now that we've covered Piltover's pride and glory in Jayce, let's shift over to Piltover's law and order in Caitlyn. As I just mentioned, she is Piltover's law enforcement officer, and as the city's sheriff, she is known for her meticulous approach to crime solving, as well as her dedication and high sense of justice. While she's also intelligent, unlike Jayce, who uses his intellect in the form of invention, she uses it in the form of strong tactical combat strategy as well as marksman capabilities, making her an amazing force to have in your team. And with that, we can clearly see that she's also someone who has a strong sense of duty, but she has additional qualities like incredible composure and very focused calculation. And you have to have those capabilities when you're being a sharpshooter sniper. But even though she has a strong commitment to Piltover's safety and is someone who essentially has to command some respect, I like that she is able to carry that with a sense of elegance and poise, which I definitely think comes through in a lot of her fashion choices. And I think that that high sense of elegance can even come across as snobbishness, as she's very protective of Piltover against especially the neighboring city or town of Zaan. But her duality comes through in the form of calmness and power. So even though she does have a sense of high elegance and class and sophistication, she does have a lot of practical components and elements to her personal style. And so double tapping on that piece, the elegance in her personal style really comes through within, I think, strong feminine staple items like dresses and form-fitting silhouettes, but that form-fitting component also lends itself to some of that functionality as a shooter. And she certainly toes the line between being high style and high utility, especially within the accessories that she wears, whether it be gloves, belts, or various holster items. Similar to Jayce, it's really that kind of steampunk and Art Deco component that asserts her sophistication and status consciousness as far as fashion is concerned. And I think that she especially embodies more of the steampunk Victorian angle, which there's characters I've seen across various different franchises that I liken to her aesthetic, especially because she just really wears it so well. Like, think Alice Madness Returns. And once again, not one to talk about weaponry, but her rifle is certainly a statement accessory, also in concert with some sort of headwear, because she's typically adorning some sort of hat within the various alternate skins that she has in her collection. And given that she has almost double the alternate skins as Jayce, we can see an introduction of more color palettes and varying textures that also do some work to convey who she is. A plethora of different colors, different materials like leathers and satins, and also just plenty of different hardware elements mixed in to show that she is certainly a sophisticated, stylish, classy woman, but also has that practical edge that is not to be underestimated. And that comes through perfectly when we look at her default outfit or skin. The purple dress is just so iconic. Plenty of the gold details, utility, practical items. And so we can clearly see, in contrast to Jayce, there's not as much of like gears or cogs or technological elements. This is sleek, stylish, but also focused, which is exactly who she needs to be as a marksman. Now that we're groovy on her core elements and foundation, let's take a look at these alternate skins that she has in her collection. Starting with Resistance Caitlyn, this is much more armored and hardware than a lot of the other looks that we're going to get from her. And as such, it's just not as much of a favorite. It definitely highlights the tactical, strategic combat orientation that she's obviously capable of. And I think the gun has some interesting additional details, and I like that it's a different type of hat. Overall color palette just feels very close in proximity to each other, more so focused on function than fashion. Headhunter Caitlyn is along those same lines, much more armor element. The gun's interesting, it feels much more intimidating and almost seems like it can double as a blade, but it just feels a little too rugged. I do like a bit more of the tribal angle to it, but instead of like a hat, it's just like more of like a helmet. Just love that it's still kind of like a skirt or dress element. We're still getting a little bit of style, but once again, just like not a major fave. Now we're starting to get into something that is plenty of fashion, but also just as functional. Functional in the form of dressing to your environment, but also just the coat is gorgeous. Like, great texture, love the fit. And the boots are super cute, mirroring some of that texture as well. The rifle's pretty straightforward, but I mean, it just kind of makes sense. Safari Caitlyn is cute, partly because of like the body confidence. We're starting to get a little bit more of that in the mix, but there's just a little bit more layer to it in terms of like just different components and pieces to the composition of it. I love the sunglasses too. The hat is fun. It still does feel pretty grounded and down to earth, but at least it's a little more fashion. There's even additional cute accessories like a necklace and even think some earrings that we can kind of see peeking through. So just love the additional incorporation of the small details like the accessories. Officer Caitlyn, even though it also is really high practicality, and I would typically maybe rank something like this a little bit lower, I think I just love how well it fits. I just like that they're different shades of blue. It doesn't feel as one note and flat, but I really just think I like the gun in this case. It just really feels like it gives like the officer vehicle sirens, and maybe it's a little bit of the gold detail that just gives a little extra touch of elevation. Pulsefire Caitlyn is almost like a top fave for the gun alone. It's one of my favorite gun structures. The outfit is a bit more, it's not even really armored. It still feels like it's that form-fitting kind of mobile tactical angle that she typically has. And I like a bit more of the luminescent details across the outfit, and the lapels or the collar of the suit add a nice extra bit of detail to this, in combination with a bit more of the banded perpendicular kind of pattern that we get throughout the suit as well. I gotta say, I can't really put Arcane Caitlyn higher. I much more prefer her default look, but this one does give us significantly more detail. And I like that the pants are a bit more rounded and just have a bit more volume to them. The boots are taller, and I love the top of them, just with the extra kind of brighter purple details with the gold, just to kind of frame those well. And love the kind of corset element that she has. And I do think we are getting a little more chest in terms of like a more put together outfit like this, which is great. And there is some asymmetry in the sleeves, which does add some variation and interesting kind of differentiation to this outfit. But I feel like Sheriff Caitlyn kind of almost follows a similar outfit composition, but just looks more of that genuine, like tight put together look that maybe I'm a bit more biased towards for her style. I like a different hairstyle. The hat is also, once again, varied and cute. Maybe that's what it was. I was missing a hat in the last look. I just feel like she needs some sort of hat. She just looks more expensive in addition to all of the different layered accessories that she has. DRX starts to advance into a territory that's much more fantasy and imaginative, but also maintains a layer of fashion to it. I just like the kind of pointed components across the outfit. I love the kind of, I actually, for once, like the horned elements to the hat. I don't always like horns. The chest piece is a bit more armor, which is why I didn't necessarily put this any higher, but she at least has like an interesting kind of skirt short combo going on. And I think that adds just some slight differentiation and variation to the structure. Mythmaker is also very imaginative and fantastical and starts to lean into ethereal territory. And it also just feels a little more cultural, which I also very much appreciate. It almost looks like it's, and we were just talking about it, Shifao with regard to Chun-Li. It just almost looks like it's kind of following that style of like a dress or garment. The gun is gorgeous, and the wings are obviously a very great touch, at least in the special edition. And even the headpiece is different. It's not like a typical hat. It's so much more ornate and interesting to look at. Gotta put Pool Party a bit more up here just because incredible body confidence. And I think that it's nice to see a character like her step into a bit more of that. And I like that she's wearing a bit of like a robe or a shirt just like off the shoulders, just for a little extra movement and just a little extra decoration in the mix, and how it coordinates perfectly with the sun hat that she has. And the fact that it's like a water gun is just really plays up the fun and playfulness of this overall skin aesthetic. Arcade Caitlyn, I think fun, playful, and imaginative, but also still kind of gives like a officer type of vibe as well. And she even has cute little video game motifs like a potion and a Game Boy in the back of her outfit. So just super cute overall. Obviously the color palette is very playful, but it also is a good contrast with like the white and the magenta and even like the blue hair to more of that richer purple base, which still kind of gives her something a bit more serious. Battle Academia, I think, is almost like peak high class status conscious Caitlyn, to be honest. Like just the overall demeanor and attitude coming from this one is a bit more focused. The outfit is obviously super cute, and the gun I think is easily one of the top faves. Like it just looks so cool and magical in combination with all of the fantastical elements to her outfit. It's definitely like school prep, but at another layer, definitely officer official status. But on that note, I definitely think that Arcane Commander Caitlyn is like really what the Arcane look should be for her. Like this first base one just looks exactly like the default outfit, but evolved, elevated, level up, like absolutely incredible. And even the gun is just next level. Like she has like the same cape from the Battle Academia, but the same structure and silhouette of her default. Such a great combination and hybrid. She's stepped into that commander leading officer role, and it just looks honestly very good on her. And then the prestige one, that's how you do like the pants. If we're gonna do the pants with no hat, like we need something else in the mix to not make it feel so flat and boring. Not that the other one did, because it had great accessories, but this one just feels so much more evolved and elevated. Plenty of gold details. I just love the jacket. The pants are just so much better, and the cape is such a great addition. Snow Moon Caitlyn looks vicious, and I just think that this is also an interesting cultural inspired like fantasy ethereal type look and aesthetic for her. Love the necklace, love the shoulder pads, just with a little extra detail and just structure than like typical armor. The boots, just like all of the kind of elements coming from the dress or the top that she's wearing. And Lunar Wraith kind of falls within that same line. I think I just like something that's a bit more fantasy and extraterrestrial, and just the fact that it's just so much different than her usual aesthetic just gives it nice points and just shows that her character can be depicted just as serious, just as vicious and powerful, but in a number of different ways and visual styles. And I just really love all the gold. I love the way the dress fits. And I like some of the asymmetry, the headpiece. Overall, just a nice, refreshing change. It's amazing how Prestige Arcade can manage to look just so much more elevated than the previous Arcade look. Like, it still is kind of fun, cutesy, a little campy, but much more serious, despite how bright and kind of glowing the color palette is. Love the gold and the white. Like, it just honestly definitely asserts more of the kind of official, commanding energy and presence that she really has per her role. The gun is super cute. Loving the gun, and really just plenty of the chest within this look as well. Heartthrob Caitlyn, so cute. Like, and maybe I'm biased because like the pink and the purple, it has plenty of decoration, plenty of layers, follows her typical silhouette, much softer of a style, even in terms of the gun. But I think that that's such an interesting juxtaposition and contrast to the role that she has and who she is. Someone who's lethal and a powerful force not to be reckoned with, but can still look so cutesy and put together and girly. I just love literally all the, like, you can just, like, you get it. Like, she just looks so freaking good. All right, how's that for starting off this League of Legends series with two very main and prominent characters, especially from Piltover? Let me know who's your favorite character out of the two and what is your favorite skin of theirs. Do you somewhat agree with the ranking? I'm sure there's some disagreements, but I'd love to hear kind of how you would maybe order some of these skins in terms of strength and weakness. But obviously there's plenty more of these League of Legends champions to come, and I'm excited to see how the Arcane series continues to unfold to its finale. But of course, until the next video, I'll talk to you later.